G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And around about a year ago I compared my old CL9 Accord with an automatic Toyota Altezza. And the only reason I did it was because I was given the opportunity and I figured, hey, at least we can compare how the exterior and the interior and the engines compare, even if the transmissions are different. However, today I've been given the privilege to film with this immaculate and incredibly tastefully modified Toyota Altezza RS200 with the correct transmission, a 6-speed manual. In terms of exterior styling, my Accord is obviously completely stock, so there's not really a whole lot to talk about here. But this particular Altezza has been really nicely put together. It's in a delightful looking blue color that's a little bit more interesting than the normal silvers or whites that you tend to see most Altezzas in. The wheels are perfect for this car. They suit it really well and are an incredibly aggressive fitment. Overall, it is a delightful looking car to see on the road. The engines fitted to these two cars are extremely similar, with one major difference, and that is that in the Honda it's mounted sideways, whereas in the Altezza it is mounted lengthways. The Honda over here has a K20A, a 2-litre inline 4 making 162 kilowatt or 220 horsepower and 206 newton meters, going through a 6-speed manual transmission and a limited slip differential. The Altezza has a 3SGE Beams engine, the very last iteration of the 3SGE engine. Makes 154 kilowatt or 210 horsepower, so a tiny bit less than this, but a bit more torque, 216 newton meters, again paired up with a 6-speed manual transmission with power going to the rear through a limited slip differential. What I love about the Altezza's interior is that it's kind of a hybrid of the New Zealand new Accord Euro S that I did last time and the Accord Euro R. It has some really sporty elements, like the steering wheel with these incredibly rare carbon fiber inserts that looks and feels absolutely fantastic. And the gauges, especially because this one has the newer gauges with the tachometer in the middle rather than off to the side, is one of the coolest parts about this car, and it looks absolutely stunning. But the best part about it in my mind is the seats, and this is where that hybrid between the Euro S and the Euro R comes in. The seats in the Accord are very aggressive, and on longer drives they can get a little bit uncomfortable. While they do hold you in really well, in my mind I feel like a seat like this, which is relatively sporty but not too crazy, is a really good option. And what I also love about Toyotas from this era is all of the accessories feel really nice. Like the indicators just have this quality feel to it, likewise with all the buttons down the center stack here. And because this one has a short shifter on it, the transmission like barely even moves when you change gears, and it does feel absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of buttons on the interior of my Euro R, half of which don't do anything, whereas this one is very simple. Just your gauges, a simple steering wheel, simple climate control, and nothing else to get in the way of driving. Driving the manual Toyota Altezza, this is definitely the transmission that this car needed to have. The automatic gearbox, oh gee, the one in the Accord is okay, but the one in the Altezza is frankly absolutely terrible. But the manual one is excellent. Transmission feel overall is really good, but because this one has a short shifter, in my mind it actually makes it a little bit harder to find all the gears, especially second, because it has a tendency to want to go all the way over into reverse. But the engine is nice. There's shift knobs making a bit of racket, so if you can sort of look past that, the engine itself, it makes good power, it's very zippy. However, it's kind of like the Euro R, but always out of VTEC, I suppose. You know, the way this goes below like 5500 is the same as the Euro R. The difference is, of course, the Honda hits VTEC and then gets going, whereas this kind of doesn't. It's reasonably easy to heel toe, although it's definitely an electronic throttle, so it doesn't respond quite as quickly as the one in the Euro R, and I'm surprised how quiet the engine is, to be honest. It's not really all that loud at all, to be honest. Oh. Oh my, this thing is loose, man. For some reason, the back end just doesn't, oh, see, look at that. It just doesn't communicate about what it's doing. My ISF is very easy to control when it does finally go sideways, even in miserable conditions like this. But for some reason, this car, whether it's tires, whether it's suspension, but oh gee, yeah, when it does go, I just can't feel the car doing what it's doing. bump stops, bro. This car is undrivable on this road, man. It's not designed for this kind of road, and it's not designed for these conditions, man. It is, oh dear, not good. In my mind, there were 3 things wrong with the setup and 3 things wrong with the car that meant that I just didn't jive with it. First of all, it was way too low, so any little bump or undulation in the road, it was just plowing the chassis into the bump stops, and I had mechanical sympathy for the poor thing. Then there was the racket that was coming from the transmission, which was really, really weird. When you got the revs over about 5,000 RPM, there was just this metal on metal grinding noise that was just emanating up through the transmission tunnel. The owner tells me it's the short shifter, but whatever it was, it just made me not want to wind it out. And then because of his camber in the back, and I think it had some, reasonably average tires, it just wouldn't put any power down in a predictable fashion. You put your foot down, you're like, oh yep, it's going, oh no, now it's spinning up, oh no, it's gripped again, oh no, it's spinning up. And then the other major issue, which maybe comes down a little more to the Altezza itself, was that the steering and the chassis didn't communicate anything regarding wheel spin. The only way I could know that it was starting to step out was visually. If you're seeing that you're pointing towards a bank, by then you're too late. And I got myself into a couple of sort of slightly hairy situations, not intentionally, like half throttle, just looking to sort of ease it out of a corner, and the thing's just doing all these just ridiculous maneuvers, that were just totally unexpected. And the combination of those 3 things just made it a car that is really only suited for driving on a very smooth motorway to a car meet, to be parked up and for people to look at. And for that, it was stunning. And then on top of those 3 things, there was the engine, which, while it does make good power, it just doesn't sound as good as a Honda on VTEC. It's just enjoyable to listen to. It's such a beautifully sonorous sound. And then the final thing is, I just have far more fun driving a car like this. I thought that the Altezza would be very, very similar, but rear-wheel drive, so you kind of can hang the back end out a bit, which is obviously more fun than front-wheel drive in general, at least. But on the way in, because I was running a bit late in the pouring rain, I was giving this thing some solid beans like this. I had a massive smile on my face. It was so fun to drive. The sound, the LSD pulling you out of corners, the short gears. This is just more me. Now that's not to say that the Altezza isn't a good car. The interior is great, the exterior is so timeless, and the fact that it is rear-wheel drive, if you set it up right, I'm sure it would be a fantastically good car to drive. But at the end of the day, the car I'm driving home in is a Honda Accord UOR. And I couldn't be more happy. This car's done 2,200 kilometers on this one road trip in 3 days without skipping a beat. And I've not stopped smiling while driving it. It is truly one of the all-time motoring greats. So there we go. Thanks for watching this episode of Kiwi Car Life. And I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.